The biggest mistake I see remote workers make is thinking they need to be available 24/7 to prove they're working hard. But here's what's crazy, this actually makes you less valuable, not more. So let me tell you what happened to me 3 years ago. I was working from my kitchen table, answering emails at midnight, taking calls during my daughter's bath time. I thought I was being the perfect employee. But then my boss pulled me aside and said something that changed everything. You seem overwhelmed and unfocused. Maybe you need better time management. That hit me like a truck. I was working more hours than anyone else on my team, but my work quality was terrible because I never had a clear head. So I started studying how the most successful companies handle remote work, and what I found blew my mind. Companies like Buffer and GitLab, the ones everyone talks about for remote work success, they don't want employees available 24/7. They actually forbid it. They have strict policies about when people can and can't work. Here's the thing most people don't understand about remote work boundaries. Your brain needs clear signals about when work starts and when it ends. Without those signals, you're basically asking your brain to be in work mode all the time. Think about it like this. When you worked in an office, your commute was your boundary. The drive home told your brain, work is over, family time begins. But when you work from home, there's no drive. There's no signal. So your brain stays in work mode 24/7. The most successful remote workers create fake commutes. They take a 10-minute walk before work starts. They change clothes when work ends. They have physical rituals that tell their brain when to switch modes. But here's where it gets really interesting. I learned about something called the Shutdown ritual from a company that manages 500 remote employees across 40 countries. Every single employee follows the same 5-minute routine at the end of their workday. First, they write down 3 things they accomplished that day. This tells the brain, work was productive, you can relax now. Second, they write down the most important task for tomorrow. This stops the brain from worrying about what they might forget. Third, they physically close their laptop and say out loud, work is complete for today. This creates a clear end signal. Fourth, they change one piece of clothing, even just taking off their work shirt and putting on a t-shirt. This creates a physical transition. Fifth, they do something for exactly 10 minutes that has nothing to do with work. Read a book, play with their kids, take a shower, anything that's purely personal. The results were incredible. Employee satisfaction went up 73%. Productivity during work hours increased by 45%. And here's the crazy part. Voluntary overtime actually decreased, but project completion rates went up. But most remote workers do the opposite. They keep their laptop open, just in case. They check email during dinner, just quickly. They work in their pajamas because it's more comfortable. Every single one of these habits trains your brain that work never really ends. And when work never ends, your family never gets the real you. They get the tired, distracted, half-present version of you. I see remote workers who think setting boundaries will make them look lazy. But here's what actually happens when you have clear work hours. People respect your time more, not less. When you respond to emails at midnight, you're training everyone to expect midnight responses. When you take calls during family dinner, you're teaching your team that your personal time doesn't matter. But when you have clear work hours and stick to them, something magical happens. People start planning better. They send you important stuff during your work hours. They stop bothering you with random questions because they know you're not always available. I learned this from a remote worker who manages a team of 20 people. She works exactly 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. No emails after 5 p.m., no work calls on weekends, and guess what? She got promoted twice in 3 years. Her secret wasn't working more hours. It was being completely focused during her work hours and completely present during her family time. Her boss told her she was the most reliable person on the team because when she was working, she was 100% there. The problem with most work-life balance advice is that it's written by people who work in offices. They don't understand that remote work creates unique challenges that need specific solutions, like the fact that your kids see you at home and think you're available to help with homework at 2 p.m., or that your spouse assumes you can handle all the household emergencies because you're home anyway. These situations require scripts and boundaries that most productivity books never talk about. You need specific phrases to use with your family. You need physical setups that create clear work zones. You need communication strategies for your boss and coworkers. I spent 2 years testing different approaches with remote workers from companies like Zapier, Automatic, and Envision. The ones who succeeded all followed the same basic pattern. They created physical boundaries in their space. Even if they lived in a studio apartment, they had a specific corner that was only for work. When they sat there, everyone knew they were working. When they left that space, work was over. They created time boundaries that everyone could see. Not just, I work from 9 to 5, but actual visual signals. Some put a sign on their door. Others used a specific coffee mug that meant, do not disturb. The key was making it obvious to everyone around them. They created communication boundaries with their team. They told everyone exactly when they'd respond to messages. They set up auto replies that explained their schedule. They trained their coworkers to respect their time by consistently sticking to their boundaries. But here's the most important part. They created emotional boundaries with their work. They stopped checking email just to see if anything urgent came in. They stopped thinking about work problems during family time. They gave themselves permission to be completely off when work hours ended. The remote workers who struggle are the ones who think they need to prove themselves by being always available. But the ones who succeed prove themselves by delivering great work during focused hours and being completely present for their families during personal time. Your boss doesn't need you to answer emails at 10 p.m. Your boss needs you to solve problems and deliver results. And you can't do that effectively when you're constantly distracted by the guilt of not being fully present anywhere. I've seen remote workers transform their entire lives by implementing just these basic boundaries. Sarah, a marketing manager with 2 kids, went from working 12-hour days and missing bedtime stories to working 8 focused hours and having energy for family game nights. Mike, a software developer, stopped taking calls during dinner and started having actual conversations with his wife for the first time in 2 years. His marriage improved so much that his wife said she finally felt like she had her husband back. The key is understanding that boundaries aren't about working less. They're about working smarter and living better. When you have clear limits, you become more valuable at work and more present at home. But you have to be willing to have some uncomfortable conversations. You have to tell your boss what your work hours are. You have to explain to your family when you're available and when you're not. You have to say no to requests that come outside your boundaries. Most people are afraid to do this because they think it will hurt their career. But every successful remote worker I've studied has learned that the opposite is true. Clear boundaries make you more respected, not less. The companies that are winning at remote work are the ones that encourage boundaries, not the ones that expect 24/7 availability. And the employees who get promoted are the ones who deliver consistent, high-quality work during defined hours. So here's what I want you to think about. Right now, your work is probably bleeding into every part of your life. Your family is getting the stressed, distracted version of you. Your work is getting the tired, unfocused version of you. Nobody is getting your best. But what would change if you could be completely focused during work hours and completely present during family time? What would that do for your career? What would that do for your relationships? The most successful remote workers aren't the ones who work the most hours. They're the ones who've mastered the art of being fully present wherever they are. When they're working, they're 100% focused on work. When they're with family, they're 100% focused on family. This isn't just about productivity or time management. This is about reclaiming your life and becoming the person your family deserves and the employee your company values. The question isn't whether you can afford to set boundaries. The question is whether you can afford not to. Because every day you wait is another day your family doesn't get the real you, and another day your career doesn't get your best work. By next year, remote work will be even more competitive. The people who have learned to master work-life boundaries will be the ones who get promoted, get raises, and get respect. The ones who are still trying to prove themselves by being available 24/7 will be the ones who burn out and get left behind. Which side of that equation do you want to be on?